The sky burned above the war-torn earth, its crimson glow casting long, jagged shadows across the land. The once pristine city of Solara was now reduced to a crumbling husk, its glass towers shattered and twisted, the ground scorched by relentless bombardments was a cracked wasteland, a testament to the fierce, unyielding war between humanity and the invaders from the stars. Within the ruins, a group of soldiers gathered, their armored figures barely visible against the devastation. They were known as the Beast Hunters, humanity's last hope. A team of elite warriors, each bonded with a genetically modified beast, these soldiers fought not only for survival but for the future of the human race. Laria stood at the center of the group, her violet eyes flickering with the glow of the quantum flame coursing through her. Her armor was battle-worn, but her presence commanded respect. She had become more than just a soldier. She was the keeper of the flame, the one who held the key to defeating the invaders. But the power that resided within her was both a gift and a curse. Beside her, towering over the group, was Kareth Onar, a creature born from the heart of the quantum flame. A massive, dragon-like beast, Kareth Onar was the last of his kind, bonded to Laria through a bond older than time itself. His wings, shimmering with cosmic energy, were folded against his back, but even at rest, he exuded an aura of raw power. Laria reached out to touch his massive claw, the warmth of the bond between them sending a pulse of energy through her. She could feel the dragon's thoughts, ancient, primal, but also protective. Together, they were unstoppable. "Are we ready?" Laria's voice was steady, but beneath the calm exterior, there was a flicker of uncertainty. The time had come. The final battle was on the horizon. Commander Solus, a seasoned veteran of the Beast Hunters, stepped forward. His armor was marked with countless scars, and his expression was hardened by years of war. But there was something different in his eyes today. A fire, a resolve that had not been there before. "We're ready," Solus said, his voice gruff but resolute. "The invaders have brought their cyborg beasts with them, but they've underestimated us. We've faced worse." Laria nodded, her eyes scanning the horizon. The invader ships loomed overhead, their dark forms like vultures circling the remains of a dying planet. But today, there was something different about the air. The scent of metal, smoke, and decay filled her nostrils. And beneath it, the subtle hum of the quantum flame beckoned. "We have to end this," Laria said quietly. "For good." The beast riders began to mount their creatures, each one an extension of themselves, a manifestation of their strength and their bond. Ji, Laria's most trusted ally, climbed onto her cybernetic wolf, the creature's metallic fur gleaming in the dim light. Ji's armor was sleek, designed for speed and agility, her rifle slung across her back. "Let's make this quick," Ji said, her voice tinged with determination. "We don't have much time before they deploy their full force." Laria didn't respond immediately. Her gaze was fixed on the massive invader ship descending from the clouds. The Black Nebula, the leader of the invader fleet, was about to land. Its dark hull reflected no light, only absorbing it, creating a silhouette that sent a chill down Laria's spine. This ship, this vessel, held the one thing she feared most, the Beast Overlord. As the Black Nebula landed, its ramp descended with a grinding screech, and the invaders began to march out. But they were not alone. Genetically enhanced beasts, hybrid creatures fused with alien technology, stepped down alongside them, massive hulking forms with glowing eyes and cybernetic limbs. Their claws scraped the earth, leaving deep grooves in the ground. They were designed for one purpose: to hunt and destroy. The Beast Hunters braced themselves, but Laria's heart sank. The creatures were unlike anything they had faced before. They were powerful, almost machine-like, with intelligence that could rival the smartest of humanity's soldiers. Solus raised his hand, signaling for the beast hunters to move out. With a single command, they charged, riding their beasts into battle. Laria led the charge, Kareth Onar's massive wings creating gusts of wind that sent debris flying. The dragon roared as they closed the distance between them and the invader forces. The enemy beasts howled in response, their glowing eyes fixated on the humans. The battle was about to begin. Laria's heart raced. She could feel the quantum flame burning inside her, its power rising like a tide. But there was something else, something darker, a presence that whispered at the edges of her consciousness. The beast overlord was near. The first wave of invader. Beasts lunged forward, their claws scraping against the earth as they charged toward the beast hunters. G's cyberwolf was the first to strike, her beast leaping into the fray with blinding speed. It tore through the enemy lines, ripping apart the invaders with savage precision. G's rifle barked, sending deadly shots into the alien soldiers who tried to flank her, but Laria couldn't focus on them. She needed to find the beast overlord. She saw it then, the figure emerging from the shadows of the Black Nebula. The beast overlord was massive, towering over the battlefield like a dark god. His body was a grotesque combination of alien and machine, with cybernetic enhancements covering every inch of his monstrous form. His eyes glowed with a fierce red light, and his voice reverberated through the air. "You cannot stop me, human," he growled, his voice low and menacing. "The quantum flame will be mine." Laria's fists clenched. She felt the power within her surge, but she knew she had to be careful. The beast overlord was more than just a brute force. He was a creature of intellect and darkness. "I won't let you take it," she said, her voice firm. The clash of titanic forces shook the battlefield. The beast hunters, riding their genetically enhanced creatures, fought with the ferocity of cornered animals. But the invaders were unlike anything they had faced before. The cybernetic beasts seemed unstoppable, each one engineered for war, their unnatural strength a terrifying counter to the human soldiers' sheer determination. Laria, still atop Kareth Onar, soared above the fray, her dragon's fiery breath incinerating enemy soldiers and beasts alike. The dragon's wings beat like thunder, pushing them farther into the heart of the battle. But even as they fought, Laria's mind remained focused on the beast overlord. He had to be stopped. As the enemy forces closed in, the ground beneath the beast hunters cracked open, and from beneath, more monstrous creatures emerged, larger, stronger, and now armed with cybernetic enhancements that made them almost invincible. The creatures' armored exoskeletons were nearly impenetrable, and their glowing eyes seemed to pierce the darkness like twin suns. "We need reinforcements," Solus shouted over the comms, his voice tinged with urgency. The beast hunters had fought off wave after wave, but they were being overwhelmed. Laria's chest tightened. The beast overlord was watching them from the shadows of his ship, his towering figure unyielding as he observed the carnage. "This isn't just a war," Laria whispered to herself. "It's a massacre." The thought sent a chill down her spine, but she couldn't afford to be distracted. Jai's cyberwolf tore through another invader beast, its claws cutting through the creature's metal armor like paper. Solus's fighter, a genetically enhanced battle rhino, slammed into a massive enemy creature, sending it crashing to the ground. The clash of steel and sinew rang out as the battle intensified, but despite their ferocity, the beast hunters were fighting against an unstoppable force. Kareth Onar roared, his breath lighting up the battlefield, but even the dragon's flames couldn't extinguish the tide of invaders flooding in. And then, it happened. The beast overlord stepped forward, his massive cybernetic claws sinking into the earth with a bone-shattering crash. His form was a grotesque blend of alien physiology and cold, metallic enhancements. Every movement he made radiated with power and malice. "You're weak," the Beast Overlord's voice rumbled, distorted through his mechanical voice modulator. "Humanity is nothing but a fleeting spark, ready to be extinguished by the true inheritors of the quantum flame." Laria's grip tightened on Kareth Onar's saddle. Her dragon growled, sensing the imminent danger. She felt the quantum flame surging inside her, but it was still not enough. The Beast Overlord raised his hand, and from within his chest cavity, a dark energy began to gather. A swirling vortex of energy that threatened to consume everything in its path. "The quantum flame is not your salvation," the Beast Overlord sneered. "It is your doom." Laria knew they had no time to waste. The Beast Overlord was charging up some kind of devastating attack, one powerful enough to wipe out the entire Beast Hunter squad. She locked eyes with Ji, her best friend and most trusted comrade, who was fighting off the invaders near the rear. "We need to take him down now," Laria shouted through the comms. "All Beast Hunters, form up! We have to stop him before he unleashes that energy." Ji nodded, her face grim but resolute. "Understood. We're coming for you." With a final roar, Laria spurred Kareth Onar forward, slicing through the line of invader beasts with precision. The dragon's wings flared, pushing her toward the Beast Overlord, and the quantum flame inside her surged. But the Beast Overlord was waiting. With a powerful swipe, the cybernetic alien general hurled a shockwave of dark energy at Laria and her dragon. The blast collided with Kareth Onar's fiery breath, creating a violent explosion that sent Laria flying backward, her body crashing into the ruined landscape. Pain exploded through her chest, and she gasped for breath. But she could still feel the flame inside her, burning, roaring. It wasn't over. Kareth Onar let out an agonizing screech as the shockwave slammed into him. The dragon was injured, his wings twitching in pain, but he didn't falter. The bond between them was stronger than ever. "We fight, Kareth Onar," Laria whispered fiercely, reaching out to the dragon through their mental link. "Together, we'll end this!" Kareth Onar, wounded but unbroken, responded with a defiant roar. The dragon's massive claws lashed out, tearing apart enemy forces in his path as he charged toward the Beast Overlord. The final confrontation was approaching, but the Beast Overlord's power only grew stronger with each passing second. He was drawing power from the quantum flame itself, twisting it, corrupting it to fuel his own dark agenda. The ground beneath them began to crack, and dark tendrils of energy surged from the Overlord's body, stretching toward the heavens like a storm. Laria could feel the energy building inside her, the quantum flame responding to the corruption. "No," she gasped, realizing what the Beast Overlord was doing. "He's trying to consume the flame." With one final surge, Laria reached deep within herself, pulling every last ounce of the quantum flame into her hands. She raised her arm high, and a brilliant light erupted from her palms, pushing back the dark energy that the Beast Overlord had unleashed. "I am the Keeper," Laria declared, her voice filled with determination, "and I will never let the flame fall to you." The battle had reached its boiling point. The ground was littered with the wreckage of invader ships and shattered beasts, but it was clear the Beast Overlord was still far from defeated. His monstrous form loomed over the battlefield, the dark energy pulsating from his body like a black sun, consuming everything in its path. Laria's heart pounded in her chest as she struggled to regain her footing. The quantum flame inside her burned brighter than ever before, but it was no longer just a source of power. It was a part of her, fused with her very essence, and now it was responding to the invader's dark energy. A tug of war for dominance. "Kareth Onar!" Laria shouted, her voice filled with desperation. "We can't let him take it! We have to stop him!" The dragon roared in response, his body racked with pain, but he was unwavering. Together, they had fought countless battles, but this one felt different. This wasn't just a war for survival. It was a war for the very soul of the quantum flame. G's voice crackled over the comms. Laria, we need backup. The other beast hunters are falling back. We can't hold off the invaders much longer. Not yet, Laria replied, her voice steely. We've come too far. If we lose the flame now, it's over, for all of us. The beast overlord raised his arms, and the dark energy swirling around him intensified. It was a force that seemed to warp the very fabric of reality, bending the light around him and casting the battlefield into an unnatural shadow. His red eyes locked onto Laria, burning with a cold, malevolent fire. You think you can defeat me, Keeper of the Flame? He sneered, his voice distorted by the mechanical resonance of his cybernetic enhancements. I've already consumed its power. You are nothing but a vessel, a tool for the flame. It will belong to me, and with it, I will rule this galaxy. Laria gritted her teeth, pushing the pain of her injuries to the back of her mind. She could feel the quantum flame surging inside her, a torrent of energy that had been dormant for so long. And now it was awakening. But the more she fought to control it, the more it began to slip from her grasp. No! Laria shouted, her hands trembling. I won't let you take it! But the beast overlord was relentless. He extended, his hand sending another surge of dark energy toward her. The blast was faster than anything she had encountered before. It struck her chest with bone-shattering force, sending her tumbling through the air. She crashed to the ground, gasping for air, the energy of the quantum flame flickering in her mind. The pain was excruciating, but it was nothing compared to the emptiness she felt in that moment. Her power, the thing that had made her humanity's last hope, was being drained. Laria! G's voice screamed through the comms, but Laria could barely hear it. The world around her seemed to blur, and her body felt numb. She could feel the beast overlord approaching, his heavy footsteps shaking the earth. He was savoring this moment, reveling in the destruction he had caused. But Laria knew something. He didn't. The quantum flame wasn't just a weapon. It was a force of creation, one that could not be controlled by any one being, not even him. The whispers of the flame echoed in her mind, urging her to rise. You are the keeper, it whispered. It is your choice. Fight or burn. With that, Laria's eyes snapped open. The energy within her flared to life once again, this time stronger than before. She could feel it. The flame was not a curse, but a gift, one that had been awakened by her will, not the beast overlord's. Kareth Onar landed beside her, his massive claws scraping against the rocky ground. The dragon's eyes blazed with fury, his own power flaring in response to Laria's surge. It was as though the bond between them had reached its fullest potential, the flame within them merging as one. Together, Kareth Onar, Laria whispered, her voice steady now. She stood to her feet, the quantum flame radiating from her, a beacon in the darkness. We'll end this. The beast overlord was already preparing to unleash another devastating attack, but he stopped when he saw the transformation before him. Laria had become something more. The quantum flame surrounded her like a living aura, burning brightly against the encroaching darkness. Her eyes glowed with the intensity of 1,000 suns, and the ground beneath her feet crackled with energy. No! The beast overlord growled, his voice tinged with panic. He took a step back, his confidence faltering. This can't be. Laria stepped forward, her every movement resonating with the full power of the quantum flame. The darkness that had once consumed her was now a part of her, controlled and bent to her will. You are nothing but a shadow, Laria said, coldly. And shadows fade. The final confrontation began. With a single movement, Laria raised her hands toward the sky, and the quantum flame erupted from her like a storm. The energy that poured from her was not destructive, but cleansing, consuming the dark energy that had infected the beast overlord. He screamed as the flame engulfed him, his body beginning to disintegrate under the intensity of Laria's power. Kareth Onar roared, his dragon's voice reverberating across the battlefield. With a mighty strike of his tail, he shattered the ground beneath the beast overlord's feet, sending the invader leader plummeting into the abyss below. The energy from the quantum flame surged into the depths, eradicating the beast overlord once and for all. But the battle was not over. The beast hunters were still fighting. Laria looked to the horizon where the invader ships were retreating. The last of the enemy forces were being driven back, their will shattered by the defeat of their leader. The victory was hard won, but it was the beginning of something new. The smoke of battle still hung thick in the air, its acrid scent mixing with the burnt remnants of fallen ships and the remains of the invader beasts. The once vibrant city of Solara was now a shattered wreck, its gleaming towers reduced to ruins. But humanity had won. For now. Laria stood amidst the devastation, her breath ragged as she surveyed the battlefield. The quantum flame still burned, brightly within her, a constant, ever-present pulse in her chest, but it was no longer the wild fire it had once been. It was controlled, purposeful. It had become a part of her, as much a part of her soul as her heart and mind. Kareth Onar stood. Beside her, his massive form still glowing with the residual energy of the battle. His dragon's eyes locked onto hers, and for a moment, there was an unspoken understanding between them. The bond they shared had been forged in the fires of war, but now, it was something more. They had become something more. "We did it," Jai said, approaching from behind, her voice exhausted but triumphant. She wiped a streak of blood from her face, her eyes scanning the wreckage. "The invaders are in retreat. We've secured the planet." Laria nodded slowly, her gaze fixed on the distant horizon where the last invader ships were disappearing into the sky. The victory felt hollow somehow. She had been prepared for this moment, for the end of the battle, but now that it was here, she realized there was more to fight for than just survival. "It's not over," Laria murmured, almost to herself. G frowned. "What do you mean?" The beast overlord was just a pawn in a larger game. The invasion was only the beginning. Solus, the commander of the beast hunters, approached, his expression grim. His battle rhino stood by his side, its mechanical body covered in scorch marks from the fight. "I hate to say it, but Laria's right," Solus said, his voice rough from the battle. "The invaders were just the first wave. There's a larger force out there, and if they're willing to send cyber beasts to fight us, who knows what else they're hiding." Laria's hand tightened around the hilt of her sword, a piece of alien technology she had taken from the beast overlord's ship. It had been infused with the same dark energy that had nearly consumed her, but she knew it was also a key, a piece of the puzzle that was still incomplete. "We need to prepare," Laria said, her voice determined. "We can't afford to be complacent." As the beast hunters regrouped, Laria found herself alone for a moment, standing in the shadow of the ruined city. The sun was beginning to set, casting long shadows over the land, and the quiet after the battle felt eerie. She looked down at her hands, which still hummed with the energy of the quantum flame. Her mind kept racing. The beast overlord had been just the first obstacle. Now that he was gone, it wasn't just the invaders she had to worry about. The quantum flame had awakened something deeper, something that felt as ancient as the stars themselves. And if it had been unleashed, she feared it might attract worse forces than the invaders they had just defeated. A sudden, familiar roar broke through her thoughts. She turned to see Kareth Onar charging toward her, his massive claws digging into the ground as he approached. The dragon's eyes were no longer burning with the intense energy from the battle. They were calm, but there was something deeper there. A silent understanding. "Do you feel it too?" Laria asked softly, her voice barely audible. The dragon's answer was a low growl, his body still glowing with the faint remnants of the quantum flame. "Commander Solis," Laria called over her comms, her tone more serious now. "We need to take action. The invaders may be in retreat, but the true war is just beginning." Solis's voice crackled back through the comms. "What are you thinking?" "I think it's time we finally uncover the truth behind the quantum flame. We need to understand its origins before our enemies can use it against us." There was a pause on the other end of the comms. When Solis spoke again, his voice was thoughtful. "I'll gather the team. Meet me at the command center in 30. As Laria prepared to leave the battlefield, she felt something shift within her. The battle had ended, but the war for the quantum flame had only just begun. And she wasn't sure whether the flame was her ally or her greatest threat. The world around her was healing, but Laria could feel it deep in her bones. The quantum flame was a power unlike any the universe had ever seen, and there were others out there searching for it, searching for her. As the beast hunters gathered, Laria stood at the edge of the command center, watching the sun set in the distance. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear. Whatever came next, they would face it together, and the flame would be their guide. The command center was bustling with activity. The beast hunters had finally managed to push the invaders back. But there was no time to celebrate. The war was far from over. Laria sat at the center of the room, surrounded by holographic displays of star maps, intelligence reports, and scans of the debris left by the invaders. Her mind, however, was focused on the quantum flame, the power that had saved them, but also nearly destroyed her. The more she thought about it, the more she felt like it was pulling her in two directions. Solis walked in, his face still worn from the battle but determined. He met her eyes and gave a slight nod. "We've gathered everything we know about the quantum flame, Laria," he said, dropping a data pad onto the table. "And the truth isn't what we expected." Laria's pulse quickened. She stood up, her hand still feeling the residual energy of the quantum flame within her. "What do you mean?" Solis pulled up a 3D hologram of a cosmic map, zooming in on a distant region of space. "The quantum flame isn't just a source of power. It's a key, a link between different worlds. The invaders were searching for it because they believe it leads to something greater." Laria's heart skipped a beat. "What do you mean, greater? What could be more powerful than the quantum flame?" Solis pointed to a swirling nebula far from their current location. "The celestial nexus. It's a place where the energy of the quantum flame converges, a point of power that exists beyond even the stars themselves." Laria stared at the hologram. "A place of power?" "Yes," Solis replied, his voice grave. "And if the invaders gained control of that nexus, they could reshape the galaxy, control it. And with the quantum flame, they can use it to bring destruction to everything we know." The weight of the words hung in the air, thick with dread. If the invaders reached the celestial nexus, it would mean the end of everything. Laria's thoughts raced. The quantum flame was tied to her. It was a part of her. But how could they stop a force that was beyond their understanding? How could she protect something so powerful if she didn't even know what it truly was? Chu entered the command center, her usual calm demeanor replaced with a rare seriousness. "The invaders have retreated to their command ship, but we've intercepted a transmission. They're on their way to the Nexus." Solis turned to Laria, his eyes filled with determination. "We have no choice. We must get to the Nexus before—" "They do." Laria nodded, though she felt a twinge of unease. "How do we even get there? The Nexus is light years away." "We'll use the slipstream drive," Z explained, pulling up a map of their star systems. "It's a risky maneuver, but we've got the technology to make the jump, faster than any known ship in the galaxy." Laria's thoughts raced. "What happens if we fail?" Xi looked at her with a mix of confidence and wariness. "Then we lose everything." As the beast hunters prepped for the mission, the tension among them was palpable. Their mission was clear: stop the invaders from reaching the celestial nexus at all costs. But the road ahead was uncertain, and Laria couldn't shake the feeling that the quantum flame, the very power they sought to control, was slowly slipping out of their grasp. They boarded the beast hunter ship, a massive, heavily armed vessel built to endure deep space travel. The slipstream drive was set into place, ready to propel them across the vastness of space in an instant. But as the ship lifted off, something unexpected happened. A turbulent surge of energy rippled through the ship, causing the lights to flicker. Laria's breath caught in her throat. "It's the quantum flame," she whispered, her hands glowing faintly with its energy. Solus stepped forward. "What's happening? Why is the ship shaking?" Laria closed her eyes, reaching out with the power of the quantum flame inside her. She could feel it calling her, pulling her toward something distant, something massive. "It's the Nexus," Laria murmured, her voice trembling. "It's responding to us. Or to me." Xi's voice interrupted her thoughts. "We're approaching the slipstream coordinates. It's time." With a final, sharp breath, Laria focused all of her energy on guiding them through the turbulent waves of the slipstream, harnessing the quantum flame to stabilize the ship's path. The ship lurched forward, the darkness of space shifting around them as they made the jump. The slipstream warp was a surreal experience. Time and space bent around them, reality itself distorting as they traveled through the cosmic storm. Laria gritted her teeth, pushing through the immense pressure. Her connection to the quantum flame was strong, but the Nexus was drawing closer. She could feel its power, like a black hole, pulling them toward it. After what seemed like an eternity, the slipstream settled. The stars outside the viewport returned to their normal positions, and Laria gasped as they emerged into the deep, dark void of space. In the distance, a massive, swirling nebula filled the sky, the celestial nexus. It was more magnificent than she could have ever imagined. The nexus was a swirling vortex of light and energy, a beacon of unimaginable power. It was as if the stars themselves had been condensed into a single, volatile point. The very fabric of space seemed to warp around it, and Laria could feel the quantum flame resonating with it, both in harmony and conflict. "We're here," Xi said quietly, her voice filled with awe. But just as they were about to approach, the beast hunter's ship was rocked by a massive shockwave. Another invader ship had appeared, and this time it was massive. Its dark silhouette blotted out the stars as it approached the Nexus. The beast overlord had been destroyed, but his legacy lived on. Laria's heart raced. They had to act now, before the invaders could gain control of the Nexus. But as she looked out at the swirling vortex of power, she knew that this final battle would not just be a test of strength, it would be a test of will. The air inside the ship grew thick with anticipation. The celestial nexus loomed ahead, a swirling mass of light and energy that could either save or doom them all. The ship trembled slightly as they approached its vast gravitational pull, the very fabric of space bending in its presence. Laria felt a deep primal connection to the nexus, as if it were calling to her, pulling her toward a fate she was yet to fully understand. The invader fleet had emerged from the shadows, larger and more terrifying than anything the beast hunters had faced before. Their ships were sleek, powerful, and bristling with weapons that hummed with dark energy. Laria could feel their presence now. They were not just after the quantum flame. They sought the Nexus, the heart of the galaxy's power. "This is it," Solus said, his voice tight. "We don't have much time before they breach the Nexus." Laria nodded, her eyes locked onto the Nexus. It shimmered with the promise of untold power, but also the threat of utter destruction. It was an ancient force, one that no being could control entirely. "We have to make it there first," Laria said, her voice steady but filled with resolve. The flame will guide us. We need to disrupt their forces before they gain control. Ji, standing at her side, looked at her with concern. Laria, if the quantum flame is truly connected to the Nexus, then we need to be careful. If we push too hard, the flame might consume us, just as it tried before. Laria met Ji's gaze, the weight of her words settling deep in her chest. The quantum flame was powerful, yes, but it was also a dangerous force, one that had nearly taken her life before. The connection between her and the flame had always been a delicate balance, one that could shift at any moment. "We don't have a choice," Laria said quietly. "We either control the Nexus or the invaders will." As the Beast Hunter ship descended into the gravitational pull of the Nexus, the surrounding space began to distort. The fabric of reality twisted, the stars themselves warping and fading as they neared the center of the cosmic whirlpool. Laria could feel the energy surging through her veins, responding to the pull of the Nexus. Suddenly, a blinding light filled the ship, and the entire crew was thrown forward as the slipstream drive overloaded. The ship jerked violently, its hull groaning under the strain. "What happened?" Solus yelled as the alarms blared throughout the ship. Laria could barely make out his words, her vision blurring as the overwhelming energy of the Nexus flooded through her. The quantum flame had ignited within her, no longer a mere source of power, but something alive, something that wanted to merge with the Nexus. "Laria!" Ji's voice cut through the chaos. "You're losing control!" But Laria couldn't hear her. The flame was calling to her now, filling her mind with visions of ancient forces, of a time before stars and planets, when the galaxy was just a void of energy, a pure, chaotic mass waiting to be shaped. And in that void, she saw the truth. The quantum flame was not just a weapon. It was the creation of the universe itself, a force designed to maintain balance in the cosmos. It had been harnessed by countless civilizations throughout time, and every time it was wielded, it reshaped the universe in profound ways. But the flame was never meant to be controlled by any one being. It was a force of life, but also of death. A force that could either protect or destroy, depending on who held it. The Nexus was its heart, the focal point where all things connected. The invaders, with their dark technology, sought to corrupt the Nexus, to harness its power for their own gain, and the Beast Overlord had been their instrument of destruction. But Laria? Laria was something different. She was the keeper, and her connection to the flame was the only thing that could prevent the invaders from rewriting the cosmos. The ship lurched again, and Laria was jolted from the visions, her hands crackling with the power of the quantum flame. She could feel the invader fleet closing in, their weapons charging. "We're almost there," Solus shouted, his voice laced with urgency. "Laria, you have to control the flame. If it takes over, we're all doomed." With every ounce of strength she had, Laria pulled herself together. She reached deep into herself, tapping into the core of the quantum flame, focusing on its original purpose: balance. She pushed the chaos aside, allowing the flame to guide her instead of overwhelm her. The ship began to stabilize, the turbulence subsiding as Laria regained control. She could see the Nexus now, pulsing with energy, a shimmering beacon in the void. The invader fleet was nearly in position, their ships ready to deploy their final wave of dark energy. But they didn't realize what awaited them. With a deep breath, Laria raised her hands toward the Nexus, and the quantum flame responded. It surged from her body like a tidal wave, sending a blinding burst of energy toward the invader fleet. The shock wave hit their ships like a hammer, ripping through their hulls and destabilizing their technology. The invader fleet began to break apart, their ships falling into disarray as their energy systems overloaded. The Beast Hunters had broken their grip on the Nexus. But there was still one thing left to do. Laria turned to Kareth Onar, who had been silently watching the battle from above. The dragon's eyes glowed with pride. his form shimmering with the energy of the flame. Together, they would finish it. With a final roar, Kareth Onar surged forward, his massive wings creating a windstorm that sent the remnants of the invader fleet scattering. The beast hunters, riding their beasts, followed suit, each one unleashing their genetic-enhanced power to dismantle the remaining invader forces. And then, as the last invader ship fell to the ground in a fiery explosion, the Nexus began to calm. The energy that had been flooding through the battlefield slowly dissipated, the light of the quantum flame waning as the balance was restored. Laria stood in the center of the battlefield, her body still glowing with the residual energy of the quantum flame. She could feel the power within her settling, finding its place once again. The war was over.